Welcome everybody to Business Before Hours, the second Business Before Hours that we've done via Zoom. Clearly, I'm still learning the ropes. Where the reason we're doing them back to back at the moment is to play catch-ups. We didn't have one last month, so that's why we've done one last week and this week. To those of you who were with us last week, thank you for joining us again. Before we kick off, I'd just like to, for us all to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we're all meeting from today and pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging. I'd like to introduce you guys to our awesome team here at Albury Northside Chamber of Commerce. We've got Ross with us, if you can give us a wave, Ross. We've got Gabby with us. We've got Rachel and obviously myself, give a wave. Board members this morning, not everybody is with us, but I'd just like to run through who our board members are. If you need to get in touch with either board members or staff, you can do so via the website. All of our contact details are on there, or just pick up the phone and give us a call. So our board members are Bronwyn Tyrrell, Alex Berry, Barry Young, Celeste Pearce, Graham Chapman, Steve Owens, Renee Nightingale, Hamish Taylor. Special welcome this morning. I can see you there, Councillor Alice Glacken from Albury City. Thank you for joining us. Always a pleasure to see you. And now if I can push some buttons and make myself look smart, I would like to also welcome our sponsors, if I can push the right buttons here. Bear with me, people. They deserve the screen time. So sponsors, we have got Albury City, Qantas, HIB, Insurance Brokers, Blacklocks Lavington as our platinum sponsors. We've also got 1494 2AY, our media partner. Our gold sponsors are Harwood Andrews and IBT. Silver sponsor is Shoreway. And our bronze sponsors, Integrity, Total HRM, PRD Real Estate Albury, RSM Australia, and Peter Stewart. Without these guys, we literally can't do what we do. So we thank you very much for your support, especially given the challenging times that we're in business right now. Righto. So I'd also like to extend a very warm welcome to any new members who have joined us for the first time this morning. Normally we all meet in the same room and we get to high five each other and shake hands and have the face-to-face component. Unfortunately, we can't do that at the moment for obvious reasons, but if you are new, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We hope that you find these sessions informative and educational, and we hope that they're a catalyst for ideas or something that might help further you in your own business. And we also hope that it might generate some connections as well, which will be useful for you in business. We regard our members as a big family, as a very welcoming community, and I'm sure that you will see the same as what we see in these your fellow chamber members, and we encourage you to get in touch with them. So whether that means picking up the phone, giving them a call, or sending them an email and introducing yourself, we highly recommend doing so because everybody is very welcoming, aren't you guys? Yeah. Righto. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first presenter this morning, or presenters, I should say. We've got Aaron and Phil from Regional Design Service, and they will be talking to us about architecture in rural and regional Australia. So I can see, guys, you've just unmuted yourself, so over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Carrick. Thanks, Rachel. Thanks for the team for getting us up and going this morning. We did have a bit of a rehearsal, so hopefully we shouldn't have too many glitches as we go through. So I'm Aaron Nicholls, and this is my partner in business and partner in life, Philip Nielsen. We run an architecture practice based in Corowa, about 45 minutes west, if you've forgotten where it is. We're going to run you through a presentation today of our work, but we're going to look at some problems we've had not only with COVID, of course, but also if we go back in time a little bit over the bushfire period. Although we're a long way back from where it all happened, it actually affected us. So Without further ado, we're going to run through a slideshow. There will be time for questions and answers at the end. I don't have to say where the facilities are, which is normally in my repertoire, so I feel like there's something missing from this presentation. Right, so please ask any question. Nothing's a wrong question, and without further ado, we'll go to the presentation. Did you want to say anything in the intro?
No.
Welcome everyone. Yeah, and Carrick, you're really right. Getting into Zoom meetings like this does feel like you're connected to family, and although we're 45 minutes west, bring people together is really very much appreciated, and we'll also touch on that a little bit further on too. So I'm going to share our screen and run through the slideshow that we've got ready. Can everyone see that? Yep, good on. Alrighty, so Regional Design Service. We are a registered architecture practice. We're based in Corowa, New South Wales. This is us, obviously when I went through a period of trying to grow my hair, but we'll get over that pretty quickly. This is taken out of St Leonard's. So the director, Philip Nielsen, and myself run this business. We're about 3 years old. We recently bought a shop in the main street in Corowa. We were lucky that real estate prices were fairly stable and low at that point, and our fantastic accountant said, look, you need to do something a bit harder with your superannuation, go and buy a commercial building. So we bought what was a pharmacy and turned it into an architecture office. Being in the middle of the main street is really important for us. Most architecture practices are in offices out of sight, usually upstairs in two-storey buildings, and people emerge for lunch and go back in. We wanted to really make sure that people knew what we did, how we did it, and to always have a door that was open. Do you want to talk about
the studio? So one of the, when we first set up, we had an 8 by 3 metre little studio that cost us $100 a week in the main street, and about 30% of our business came from being a main street operator. We had people walk in with folders of their dreams under their arms, and we'd be like, wait, you've got to organise a meeting. We can't sit down, like
we don't have enough room.
So when we, this building kind of came to being, we set it up with a real clear agenda that the front half of the building is actually a design and art gallery. So it's about bringing people into stories about design and the arts. And we also have the capacity, we have 40 events chairs, so we can actually host community events in this space of up to 40 people seated. We're hopefully going to be installing a catering kitchen soon, an accessible toilet, and then we have our workspace for 8 people, which we're currently a team of 5. So we wanted it to be really like a living room for the community in Corowa, but for anyone visiting the region, they could pop in, set up on one of our desks. It's kind of co-working, but we don't really charge for drop-ins. It's just come and, if you need half an hour to do something, there's a space here for it.
And that, this has grown organically. We didn't expect to open an architecture office in the country, let alone an art gallery and a co-working space and so on. But because we're right in the middle of the main street, it just lent itself to doing that. We're talking farmers who may not have good internet connections, bring their laptop in, chuck it onto a desk for half an hour or so and do what they need to do while they're in town doing stuff. So
yeah.
We've
had children come in to do homeschooling pre-COVID, parents that would bring their kids in and just set their daughter up for 2 hours to use the internet because they don't have internet at home. So it's an open door policy.
It is, yeah. So going to the next slide. So there's 2 shots here, one obviously the exterior and the interior shot there. So it's pretty big. Here are some shots of things that we've been doing out in the community. So rather than just sit at our desks all day, we wanted to talk about what design is or what architecture is. The image on the top left-hand side is in Oddfellows Hall. This is a pretty important place for Australia. This is where Federation was discussed formally after the dinner, the famous dinner that Sir Henry Parkes convened. This was a Lego workshop as part of the Corowa Rutherglen Unlocked event. So very similar to Melbourne and Sydney Open House, where we opened up or worked with Council and Destination Rutherglen to open up buildings for people to go and have a look. And very simply, it's a cultural exercise to get people excited about the places that they have really on their back doors. The image on the right-hand side is at £1,000 in Rutherglen, so we really don't see a border. So we don't necessarily confine ourselves to New South Wales or Victoria. We go into Victoria very often. More than 50% of our projects sit in Victoria as well. This is in a night that we hosted talking about mid-century modernism. Anyone who was interested to come along, it was a paid event, so we were able to put some wine and food on, and in a great environment. So this is the early days of us getting out into the community, and it was so well received. We hosted a second one not very soon after at the Corriwell Golf Club, which is the bottom left-hand side. This is where we actually focused on mid-century modernism, and we had a full house for that one too, wasn't it? It was pretty exciting.
So I guess the reason that we set these events up is in architecture and design industry, I was attending a lot of conferences where everyone was whinging about why everyday people in the community don't understand what we do. Why are we not valued? And all we were doing was just talking to ourselves. So we were just in this bubble of saying, what's wrong? Oh, poor us. So when we set the practice up,
in archi speak.
Yeah,
you know,
in archi speak.
We often fall into archi speak. It's like when curators in art galleries don't write stuff for the public, which they're made an audience. And we realised that we're at risk of falling into that trap just by sitting in an office. So we're trying to demystify and de-snobify architecture a little bit. Architecture, you know, right up until about sort of 1950s, 1960s, was considered a high art, and it was in the same profession, without disrespect to the medical profession or chartered accountants and so on. So it was kind of inaccessible to a lot of people. We wanted to break those barriers down.
Yeah.
The image that you can see on the bottom right-hand side was a series of community engagements we did in conjunction with fellow chamber member Projectora. So Projectora are directly involved with community consultation between public and council. We partnered with Projectora to go out to do a heap of community engagements with rural city of Wangaratta. And while the ideas were being discussed about how to make your community better, Philip was on a desk drawing the ideas out, and I was talking to people about the value of their built environment, not necessarily just bins, roads and bus stops.
Yeah.
On that point of community, this little project here has netted so much joy for us. So Rand is a township, if you haven't been there, about an hour's drive from Corriwell, 45 minutes from Albury, let's say. My mum was born in Rand, which is how we came to be involved. The community wanted more for their people. They wanted more for their built environments, and we offered to our services to help them do that. So it was based on the vision that we helped develop for the rural city of Wangaratta. We came up with a master plan for the community of Rand to work to. It started off with the idea of, we've got some silos, why don't we put some silo art on it? But it evolved into something so much more than that. We gave it its own brand, we gave it its own website, we gave it its own Facebook page, so the community had something to grab onto to really see the progress of what was happening with their town.
So the concept was that, you know, a lot of these small communities have to self-initiate all the investment in their own town. So, you know, someone is sitting at home at the moment writing a grant to try and get $2,000 to maybe put a park bench in the middle of their little community. So this document helps them to strategize how that little park bench becomes a part of a larger project within that community to improve their sense of well-being and their sense of ownership, improve community volunteerism. So since this project, they've had 5 more community members join the Town Improvement Committee, and within a month of finishing the project, the town received $250,000 of the federal government's drought funding, which was a quarter of what was allocated for Federation Council. And when we entered,
and we're talking a township of 70 people, got a quarter of the whole Federation Council funding.
So, you know, and a lot of people ask us why Rand, like, why don't you put a front end loader through it? And then they're getting $250,000 to actually invest in attracting more families. They've got a primary school, they've got a main street that's dead at the moment, but it could be revitalized and it could be a destination. So, you know, that community is really invested in itself, and we've been able to give them a tool to improve for themselves, not with any other real guidance at the moment. So, yeah.
So as much as this has been a pro bono project for us, it was a business development exercise at the same time. We've had 3 other councils approach us after having seen the work that we've done here. Another rural township has seen Plan Rand, not too far from Rand, and said, how can you help us? So that's where the good stuff comes back. It was a pretty big investment of time in the beginning, but it has really netted some fantastic results. So,
and the difference between the way that the planning worked is that it was community-led, not necessarily local government-led. So when local government tends to do these, a lot of the community feedback is, why aren't you fixing roads, rates, rubbish? Just focus on that. We don't care about the arty-farty stuff or how we want to live. Whereas the community leading it has now actually, all that just fell aside, and the community really focused on who they want to be and what they want. So we've got to now work out how to bring council and community into removing all the negativity, and this was a good case study for that.
And look, and Federation Council have sat back and watched it and have realised the value of doing it, and have, as you can see by the drought funding allocation, really embraced what this could net. And we've seen things like the pub change ownership. It was languishing, it wasn't loved. We've got 2 new local people running the pub. The silo art project has changed because the silo art in its thing has almost run its race. So we're now looking at doing projections onto the silo as an attraction for people to come to Rand, camp overnight, stay at the RV dump point, which is a small thing but a big thing for a small town, go to the pub for dinner and so on. So tourism's starting to come out of this, the appreciation for the built environment, the history of Rand. It's coming up to its centenary, and this is all coinciding very nicely with it. So a really great project all round.
Yeah, so it's something a lot of people don't actually think architects do, but we're heavily involved in.
But how's this architecture? Well, architecture is putting the pieces of the puzzle in the right order.
Yeah. So we're kind of halfway through a time, so we might.
We have a habit of doing that, just talking. We
talk a lot. Yeah. So this is a snapshot of the work we've been doing with Tawong Shire in Tallangatta with the shopfront revitalisation project. So there was $150,000 for the community to get matched funding to make improvements to their shopfronts. So, each shopfront really was only getting $2,500 worth of investment. So the visual impact and improvement to the town, is visible just in these 2 comparative shots from before and after. So it's been, small insertions that make a big difference as a whole.
And this was a paint job essentially, and we were contracted to by Tawong Council to help them deliver it. But we embraced it, looked at the heritage of the place. We're on the ground talking to people, and this is netting more projects for Tawong now.
Yeah. We dabble in other public architecture. So this is just a little, on the left-hand side, a public toilet we finished in Corowa last year, which is a cute little building. And then we do quite a lot of tendering with local government for community facilities. So this was a pitch for the Batlow Community Library on the right-hand side. So it was a diagram of how do you create a flexible open space. Again, community living room in the center of a small town. Libraries have changed. They're not about storing books. They're about places where people meet and learn and share ideas. So how do we create a really flexible open plan design? So it was a challenge. We didn't win the job, I think, because we probably pushed a little too hard, but that's.
And they've now got a prefabricated building bolted onto the side of their heritage building. So that's all we need to say, really. So, but the little toilet block on the left-hand side, that was really hard work to try and convince council to do something like this when we've got a complete shift of what was there before. It was an ugly, dark, asbestos-filled toilet block to create something light, modern, airy and safe with a full view into the hand basin area was a real challenge. We got it over the line.
And it's in a floodplain, so everything's designed to be floodable. It's to make it delightful is very difficult.
So when you come to Corowa over the bridge into Bangarang Park, which is coming from Victoria, this little building sits nicely off to the side. So we're really proud of it.
Yeah. Again, we won't talk on this much because we've only got 5 minutes. So this is some hospitality work, Valentine's Bakehouse expansion.
This is in Rutherglen.
In Rutherglen, and then Doc's Cafe, which is a little reno we did here for $15,000 of works.
So go back to Doc's for a second. This is our first hospitality project in Corowa. It sits in the middle of the main street. The kids who bought it took it over from someone who had an established fish and chip business and said, we want to paint it pink. We said, okay, let's work out how much money you've got. And for 15 grand, we're able to put new lighting, new signage, new furniture. And now it's more than quadruple the previous business and sits in the middle of town.
People walk in and they're like, wow, I feel like I'm in Melbourne. And we're like, it was only $15,000.
We charge $500 fee, but the benefit back means we've now got a meeting space in the middle of town too.
And very briefly, we do residential. We've 50% of our work is new houses and alterations. So, jump on our website, after this, if you want to see the kind of residential work we do, there's quite a few on there.
Yeah, and I will add a point that 7 out of 8 of our significant residential projects are farmers or ex-farmers. So they're now seeing the value in investing in their built environment at home. These properties will pass on to someone else. We follow in the footsteps of a really big legacy. The last architect worked in Corowa from about 1890 up till 1973. There's a huge stock of pretty significant houses out here. The people my age, as they inherit them, are going, what am I going to do with this house? It's got 25 rooms and we're a family of 4. So that sort of stuff's starting to come into our work as well.
Yeah. So we're going to just quickly run through how we've been impacted in the last few months. So the bushfire crisis, while it wasn't, we weren't directly affected as a council region. A lot of our clients, like Tawong Shire, we were working with on a few projects. Some of our farm clients have property all up through the valleys, so they had stock and property loss.
2 of our hospitality projects went on hold straight away. One particular client was 60% down on the previous year, so naturally their refurb went on hold straight away.
And then there was a lot of confusion, like all of our public work is tied to grant funding, and a lot of them have already used their extensions. So when the bushfire crisis happened, there was no real clarity around, well, is this grant funding still going to expire in June? Have we lost 2 months of project delivery? What's going to happen? And then everyone started finding their feet in February and working out what we were going to do to get to these deadlines, and then COVID happened. So, and a lot of people, a lot of bushfire affected communities are still feeling like they've been pushed to the side because of COVID, which we know a lot's going on in the background, but it's just not visible.
So this is a snapshot of where we're at now with COVID in place. We did have 4 hospitality projects in the end go on hold straight away.
Within a week.
And cancel's probably not the right word. They'll come back online, but when is the problem? Yeah. So we can't bank on them for the moment.
Out of our forecast. We had 3 residential projects delay, and that was because a lot of the owners were involved in health or education. So everything just was thrown in the air. 3 projects that were on site, so complexities around social distancing on construction sites. Luckily, as you can see down below, they're all very open space, so they can keep their 4 square metre compliance. We had 1 house actually complete, and we've had a few new commissions, and weirdly, we've had 3 new Beechworth inquiries in the last week. So we're going to Beechworth on Thursday for a day trip.
And I think that's probably testament to the Bush Telegraph, to be honest. Hopefield, which is between Howlong and here, we've currently got 4 projects on, and this is a farming area. It's not even a town. It has the same postcode as Corowa, but we've got 4 residential projects out of just being in Hopefield and the Bush Telegraph doing its thing.
And also, I think a lot of people are realising working from home, they can't keep living the way or dealing with what they were dealing with. So everyone's going, well, we need to fix our houses. We need to spend a little more on it where we live. Quickly, just public works, a lot of our shovel-ready projects were stalled because employees were, adjusting to working from home. So we had a lot of delays. There was a lot of confusion. Can a council engage a contractor to be on site? So there was some, everything was just thrown around, and it's still not very clear that some small councils aren't very sure, so we're kind of helping with that.
So
and again,
2 images on the right hand side there. This is a new toilet block going into Talankata.
Hopefully.
So hopefully we're at the final stage of negotiation with Tawong Council, shaking it up, taking away the ugly building that's there now, complementary to the paint scheme that we've just done. And the image below is a new community centre out in Urana.
Which is under construction.
It is under construction, but that was a project that several people had said, bloody Urana, why do you want to do something out there? It's buggered. This is a $1 million plus project that the community invested a lot of time and money to, and will attract visitors, conferences, and so on. I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to go pretty quickly from here.
So this is pretty much our last slide. So we made a business decision to invest into the downtown. So while we were receiving government funding, we are holding tight, and we're looking at renovations into the studio for the catering kitchen and toilet, so we can invest into trades, community, so we can try and spend money with that funding that's coming in.
Strategic planning and connection industry engagement. We are more connected to our industry than we've ever been. We were pushing and pushing and pushing as country members of the Institute of Architects to be more involved with what was happening on the Eastern Seaboard. It's the common plight of rural and regional Australia. We had all these roadblocks thrown up. Oh, we need IP for images. We need IP. We can't share video. We can't live stream without approval. And then suddenly it was all on. So we are now connected more than ever.
Yeah. We've employed a communications person for 1 day or just over 1 day a week. We've just employed a project architect, so we can start working on the business rather than in the business. So yeah, we're really kind of shifting the way we're working to actually spend more.
And it's actually made us more efficient, which is how we've been able to employ 2 new people. So it's kind of strange, there's one more slide.
Yeah. And then again, quickly, we've been here 3 years with the practice, and we're, gaining a few accolades, and we're also on quite a few advisory committees. So from local to state and federal level. So I'm on 2 panels for the Australian Institute of Architects, and then we've, got a lot of arts and community involvement.
And being on the ground every day, having people come up to you in the street and say, well done, congratulations, or I'm so glad that you've come to town, is stuff that, as I said in the beginning, really hits home here. It solidifies our decision to move to the country. It makes us feel good about what we're doing. We're creating a legacy. We don't have kids, we don't have the family. This is the stuff that we do to create a legacy that's going to hopefully keep people interested in architecture, design, art, and so on.
Yeah. So thanks a lot. We've probably run just over time, but if you want to follow us on Instagram, there's our handle, and our website is regionaldesignservice.com. So yeah, give us a follow, touch base.
Drop in.
We're always up for a chat.
Yeah.
If you need a desk set up a laptop for a few hours, just come by and we're here.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks everyone.
Great, thank you guys. And for everybody that's watching, we'll actually circulate your presentation as well. So you'll have all of Aaron and Phil's contact details after this event this morning. Now we've just had a question here from David Kazitsky. Thank you, David, for your question. He's asked, do you think residential design will change to better allow for working from home?
Yes.
Great question. It's funny, you've all been in Zoom meetings where you can see kids going backwards and forwards and dogs barking and so on. Yes, in short. How that looks, it's probably a multitude of spaces throughout the house that you can go to that is quiet. Look, it's the kid's bedroom that needs space away from their siblings. It's also the living room has to be solely for the family to come together, not to video conference in.
I'm going to sell the value of design here, and all my peers and all the lectures I've been hearing, there's been so many design talks that I've been watching online, and the clients have been contacting all these architects and saying that little space that you put into the house that we didn't really understand what the use was for, that has been used for our work from home space, or the kids have started occupying it, and now we are owning it. So yeah, it's definitely going to change. I think people are just going to spend a little more time thinking about what's important to them where they work.
Thanks, guys. And one from me, you guys have obviously done a lot of work with local government in council areas. Is there any key bits of advice you might be able to give to anyone else in business in engaging with council? Because we all know that it can be challenging to get the foot in the door, but once the foot is in the door, then things are generally easier. Is there any key advice you can give to our members?
That's a really great question. And without question, it has been a challenge. Ultimately, it goes back to leadership at council and councillors and how engaged they are in, certainly from our perspective, in the value of art, architecture and design. If there is a councillor who doesn't understand the value of that, the challenge is very real. And you need to find the people within council who do have an interest in it and push outwards from those people, because you're never going to get the plumber who is now a project manager without project management experience across the line with delivering something that is innovative, certainly from our perspective.
I guess that's where we're working a lot with the community to understand the role of different professions. We're not just pushing our own barrel. We're talking about landscape architecture, graphic design, branding, tourism strategies. You know, so the community can actually go to council, say, this is what we want, this is what we actually need, so we can thrive. So it's kind of, you can't just be banging on the door of council. You've got to put on all these hats and be talking to community, talking to other business. You've got to get everyone kind of going, this is what we want, because council can't do anything unless the community tells them it's what they want.
Exactly. So that's why we've got a two-pronged approach of working with community. The same message goes to council, the message goes into the council door from both ends, and hopefully they have a conversation in the middle. There are times where we need to go up the ladder and go to a general manager and say, listen, we're not getting anywhere here. The community want this. And that's a privileged position that we don't dismiss or take not very seriously. But it is hard work.
Very.
That's a very, very good answer, and some great advice in there as well. I think the sense of engaging with the community to sell the message is very important. Look, thank you guys. We're going to move on now from Aaron and Phil, Regional Design Services. Thank you guys so much for your time this morning. Next up, we've got Jim Ainsworth. Jim has worn many, many hats in his time in business. Currently, his hat is Mexican with Mad Mex. Some might say it's a sombrero. Oh, that's actually a bit of a conflict of interest, isn't it? Didn't realise that. Jim's going to be speaking to us this morning about his experience working through a business crisis and what may lie ahead. Now, just we have had some audio issues with Jim's computer this morning, so Jim's going to have to slow his presentation down and pronounce every word very clearly for us, but hopefully it will all work. Over to you, Jim, when you're ready.
Okay, thanks a lot, Gary. As you said, I'm from Mad Mex. Look, I just want to talk about working through a business crisis from my experience. Anybody who's been in the business for any extended period of time has certainly come across some challenges and maybe even a major crisis. The difference at the moment is that we're all in this together. So everybody's on the same page. Whereas when you're out there on your own, it can be very lonely, and it's a very different world, believe me. We were franchisees for Healthy Life. Healthy Life brought us here in 1989 to Albury-Wodonga and were involved for quite a number of years. Now, the industry back in 2003 faced the biggest challenge it had ever seen. I was watching the news one night and I just picked up on a story, something about a vitamin recall. And I said to Linda, what do you know about that? And she knew nothing, yet she'd been working at the store all day that day. And it was really strange. And in those days, we didn't have any social media. The internet isn't like it is now. So nothing happened overnight. We didn't hear anything. And it was really strange. We got up the next morning and all of a sudden we were faced with these headlines. Biggest medical recall in history. This was April 2003. The Therapeutic Goods Administration that oversaw licensing of products, advertising standards, etc., had slapped the ban on Pan Laboratories and they had to withdraw 219 of its products. I didn't know much about Pan at the time, but I knew they were a major manufacturer, a major player in this industry, and it would have a significant impact on what we were doing. And it did, it certainly did. Linda got to work and the phone started ringing. There was customers wanting to know if their products were okay, if they could still take them, and we couldn't answer that. There were suppliers ringing and saying, you've got to take all our products off the shelf. And others would ring and say, no, we're fine, we don't use Pan Laboratories. It was a major debacle, and it just had to deal with that suddenly. In these situations, there's a number of things that are important. And the first one, I believe, is leadership. And, the way we react, the way we influence our younger staff members, because we did have a few younger staff members. So we just had to deal with it and move on. What we tried to do, which was very difficult, was to keep things as normal as possible, keep the store functioning. So we had a juice bar to run, still customers coming in, purchasing products. So Linda dealt with that with the staff members, and I took a few days away from Subway. I was involved in Subway at the time and just helped out in taking some of the products off the shelf because information was difficult to obtain. There'd be something come through by fax, phone call, and you'd just go out in the back where the fax machine was, and there'd be sheets and sheets of paper that have batch numbers and used by dates. You just had to sort through it and remove the products from the shelf. It was a really challenging time. So I said, just leave it to me. I'll just deal with all this stuff and you just deal with what's going on in the store. The other thing is attitude. People are really looking for bad news. So we didn't really want to get caught up in the bad news. So you can just just had to try to stay positive, especially around our other staff members, team members. Try to stay positive. Look, we'll get through today, and then we'll worry about tomorrow when that comes along. And the customer attitude, that you really learn a lot about your customers, as no doubt people have in recent times. And everybody's different. Like some customers that say, always believe this stuff was dubious, like, and others would say it's all a sham. It's just another tack on the natural health industry. They've been out to get us for years, and they'd actually come in and wanted to stock up on their products while they were still available, because they knew there'd be a while before they could possibly, purchase some more. And then, of course, because the products were recalled, the customers were entitled to a full refund on anything they'd purchased that had been recalled. And it seemed like out of those 219 products, 218 that were on our shelf. So, customer might have bought a bottle with 200 tablets in it, and they'd come back, it might have less than 10, and they'd ask for a full refund. Like, that was really frustrating, but you just had to grin and bear it. We really, really didn't have much choice just to move on. And then it seems, just when you see everything sort of starting to pick up, everybody's having to go at you. Like, next thing we had this headline, time to end the alternative healthcare hype. That was Bob Carr, the New South Wales Premier. Not much scientific basis for popping pills, Pound pharmaceuticals, substituted ingredients and manipulated tests, an opportunity to assess some of the exploitation of gullible people. It was, it's just like people wanted to kick us when we were down. It was really, really difficult. And you couldn't sort of talk to people too much outside the industry. And luckily, the industry was very resilient. It was made up in those days, were very different than nowadays. It made up a lot of people that had built up the brands themselves, mum and dad type operators, health food stores, the main ones affected, retailers like us. But, a lot of the suppliers, we knew, we'd see them at the conference, we'd get to know them. They were, as I said, mum and dad type people like us. So it was a very challenging time. Over the period of a few months, we estimated we lost probably about $30,000. We're very fortunate. Healthy Life had supported us through the couple of years of building up Subway. It was now Subway's payback time for Subway to kick in some money and help us back and prop up Healthy Life. And this is where you're looking from your leadership, from your head office, and Healthy Life head office were very, very good, the franchisors. They developed the template. We put in a submission for our losses, and we were anticipating on getting some money back. Although I must admit, I felt at the time it was a waste of time. We put in the effort, but I felt it was a waste of time. 5 years later, August 2008, $50 million payout to PAN and $5 million legal costs. The legal challenge was based on the group of public servants sought to shut down PAN in a way that would prevent PAN from being able to protect itself by seeking the assistance of the federal court. It seemed like it was all a sham, a complete overreaction, and of course it was payday. The government had to cough up this money and pay back PAN Laboratories. Fortunately, Jim Salim, the guy who ran PAN Laboratories, must have had a fair old bucket of money, and he was able to fight this for a long period of time and won the case. We'd gone through all this pain for it appeared to be nothing. Few years later, 3 years later, 2011, I'm pretty sure it was, PAN debacle yields further $67.5 million payout. The federal court approved the payout to a group of 162 creditors, distributors and retailers who suffered loss. It was a crazy time. And that submission we put in, we actually got some money back. We got some back on the first payout, we got some back on this payout. What a bonus. We didn't really see that coming. And as I said, it just showed seemed to be a complete overreaction. COVID-19, will we see change? Well, we certainly saw change through those times for the health food industry. 5 years time, we're going to be a lot wiser. Will we see another PAN Laboratories type situation? Who knows? There's a lot of talk of inquiries and different things. I wouldn't be surprised. Business will change. Some won't survive. Some have gone already. There will definitely be change. Win back some of the power from the shopping centre landlords. For us retailers, we retailers are in shopping centres. The landlords have had some power for a number of years. We've had to pay above CPI increases. It's been a real challenge. We're going to win back some power now. The landlords will need us more, and it needs to be more of a balance. Food business, delivery will remain strong. We've been quite strong with delivery. It's picked up in recent times for obvious reasons. This will remain strong. There's always going to be growth there. The growth has just come much, much quicker. It'll be an interesting time. We'll definitely see some changes there. Just a quick overview. as I said, leadership's important. We've been really well led by Mad Mex as the franchisor through this situation. They've taken control of dealing with our landlords. They've kept us up to date with information. We've had constant Skype calls. You're looking to your leaders. So we need to lead our people. We need to be led from above, and it's very important. Attitude and how you react. Well, I spoke about that earlier. Look, people are looking for bad news, and we need to talk to other people for our mental health with these sort of challenges, but probably need to try to keep it behind closed doors. Don't want to be talking to customers about all the bad things, and try to keep a positive outlook. As I said, day by day. Now, just finishing up, I've used this photo before, but I just love it. This is in Bali a number of years ago, and we get up in the morning before dawn. In fact, I think it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. Climb the volcano, Mount Batura, a live volcano. Climb up there so we can watch the sunrise. And there's quite a number of groups assemble at the top, and there's a little hut there where they're selling coffee. I look around and people are drinking bottles of Coke, and where did they get that from? And they pointed out this guy, and I spoke to him, and he carried something like 11 bottles to the top of the volcano to sell them. So all the hard work he had to put in to get those bottles up to the top of the volcano, and then he had a captive audience. I think this sums up business sometimes. People don't realise how much work we've actually got to put in before we can sell our product. Thank you. I hope that was interesting.
So we might, I guess we're going to wrap up a little bit early. It's 8:15. A few quick little plugs for our upcoming events. You should be all able to see that. So upcoming events, we've got tomorrow, Young Business Edge have got their Zoom session number 3. Young Business Edge using the time where we can't be meeting face-to-face to engage on Zoom like most others are. They're just playing games and getting to learn a bit about each other and learn about how everybody is adapting and using their time during these challenging times in business. On the 25th of May, we've got Project Management in Action. They've got a project managing out of COVID-19 event, which will be obviously very relevant. And on the 9th of June, we've got our next business before hours as well, and that will be via Zoom. So again, guys, I'm really sorry about the technical glitches this morning, but what we will do is we will definitely get Jim's presentation to you, whether it's live or whether it's pre-recorded. Thank you everybody for joining us this morning, and we will be in touch soon. In the meantime, good luck out there. We hope that business is starting to become a little bit more navigatable. It seems like now that the JobKeeper money is flowing, that has helped, but there is a very long road ahead, and we are here for you, just like your fellow members are as well. So we would encourage you all to get together with each other, have a conversation, ask how you're doing. Remember that, there might be some businesses doing it quite well out there as well. And I think there's a lot of lessons that can be learnt from that as well, in being innovative and creative and kind of redefining your business as well. So please engage with your fellow members, engage with us. We're always here for you as well. And we will speak to you again soon. Thank you, everybody, and good morning.